Gary Graham. I'm here for the Star Trek Vegas Convention 2019. Star Trek.
Star Wars, you meant Star Wars, right?
Star Trek, no, Star Trek
Stargate.
Enterprise and Voyager. Star Trek. That's so true. That's so true. And I'm really Vulcan. I mean, really, I'm all about Vulcans. I did.
You did?
I did Vulcan, and I knew nothing about Vulcans.
At all?
No, I knew Spock. My only reference to, so I thought, he doesn't seem to be an emotional sort, so he obviously, Vulcans don't have emotions, so it's all cerebral. And I didn't know the back history, I didn't know how they became, how they got there.
Yeah.
Until the day of shooting. And by the way, when I went in and auditioned, I just took a shot at it. I just took a crack at it.
Yeah.
And because I'd auditioned for Star Trek several times, and the same people in the room, and they didn't hire me, so I figured I wasn't destined to be on a Star Trek series. So I went in, and when I found out I got it, I go, oh, that's great. Who am I anyway? And so I just figured, well, I'll take the note from whatever I did in the audition, if I can remember it. This is, a week or so later after. I was like, gee, what did I do and who was I? So I'm all in costume and I'm in makeup and they're shooting the filming the pilot, and I'm just about to go on, and Rick Berman is wandering around the set, and I go, Rick, how are you? Thanks for hiring me. He goes, you look like a Vulcan. That's great. And I said, well, I'm not sure if I feel like a Vulcan. Could you tell me who I am? Because with
that face, with that sort of smiling face.
Pretty much smiling, and because it was hard to tell him. Great, too late to fire me and cast because we're filming in 30 minutes. He stared at me. I can't believe I asked him that question. I said, I don't mean to panic you, but I just assumed that you hired me based on my audition, and I would sort of take that as my lead, but I need a little more. And I see you just before we're filming. Can you give me anything? He puts his arm around me and walks me around the soundstage outside, and he tells me about the backstory of the Vulcans and how they're far from having no emotions. They're mercurial, very emotional, explosively emotional, and they realized for them to preserve the species, keep from blowing themselves up, they'd have to learn how to sublimate their passions and all that, and they began a sort of a Zen way of approaching things, converting it to intellectual logic, reason. And I thought, oh, that is so much more interesting than what I had in mind, but so much harder to, oh my gosh, this is going to be, so I'm as nervous as I was, I'm triple nervous now, because, oh my gosh, I'm really going to have to experience these emotions on a deep level, and then put a cap on them and restrain them. So I had my work cut out for me the first day, but it seemed to work because they brought me back, and that's my story. I'm sticking to it. Start being given the talk online about this new Vulcan, who's just a little too human. He's not really being like a Vulcan in certain spots, and I liked hearing that. No, I liked hearing that. Ordinarily, I wouldn't, but because of the line in the scene with Scott Bakula, where I raise my voice and everyone stops and turns and looks at me, and Bakula says, "Raising your voice to make a point, you have been on Earth too long," and I'm humiliated, and I take it all in. Do it very subtly, but at that point I'm just embarrassed as all get out, humiliated and angry, and I'm suppressing all this as I turn and wheel off, and I thought that's really the key to the relationship of Soval to the humans. He distrusts them, he's sort of above them, but he's been on Earth too long. It's starting to bleed through. So it was a great challenge to do it, and I loved the opportunity. Initially, I was just hired for the pilot. I just was hired it was a one-off, and I said, well, let me think. For me to be a regular here, or semi-recurring regular, I'm going to have to be a worthy foil for Archer. I'm going to have to be there, right there, to throw sand in the gears and thwart whatever plan he has, because I don't trust the humans, and I think they're just not ready. They're just not ready.
Yeah.
And they need my guidance to keep them from doing whatever they're going to do.
You're a good father to these little children. I mean.
Yes, and I'm Papa, and if I can teach them anything, to stop being human, basically, and be more Vulcan than I've done my.
I love you,
job.
but stop doing everything you're doing.
Exactly.
It's all wrong.
That's what you tell your kids. Just stay there. Don't do anything. Don't laugh. Don't do it. Just stay there. First of all, in the pilot, that scene where I'm humiliated and storm off, I like that a lot. It really gave me a running start at the character. But I really, I tried to lead the writers. They won't like hearing this because they're not led by an actor, for God's sakes. They come up with it and they give us the story arc and all that. But I saw a potential in Soval for such a curmudgeon he started out to be. I saw a potential for him to come to appreciate or tolerate and eventually appreciate and even love the humans in a Vulcan way and gain respect for them over the arc. So I tried to delay that process, but I see the writers were going in that direction. I tried to fight against it every step of the way in my character. But
which is very Vulcan.
Yes, right. It's logical.
Another layer.
No, yeah. So the actor in me was pushing for that arc. That's exactly where I wanted to go, and eventually partnering up with humans and with Vaughn Armstrong, and eventually Archer as well. My favorite spot, and all this is revealed when I'm being tortured by
scene.
Jeff Combs, the Andorian.
You had fun.
I had if you call torture and emotional turmoil,
I do.
You do. So do I. give an actor that much rope, he's gonna climb Everest. So that's where I was at. That was a hell of a day. That was an entire day in that setup, and it was exhausting but so gratifying. I just like it. It's aerodynamic, but you're in space, so you don't need to be. But then there are some times when you're landing on Earth, say in an atmosphere, so it needs to be somewhat aerodynamic. And I just loved it. I saw it when I was a little kid, so that just said Star Trek, and I thought, this is just so cool. One thing that I noticed in the original series, it's out in space. It's gravitational pulls from various planets and asteroids and all that, but there's no air out in space. And I see these big sweeping shots of this beautiful spaceship come sweeping through in a bank. And I'm a pilot, I fly airplanes. We do banks too, but we're in air. That's an aeronautical function, to bank in a turn. You don't need to bank when you're out in space.
Well, so you just do a turn though, would you?
Yeah, you would just do a turn, or fire retros, and it would just tide you, and you would adjust.
But Gary, it looks so pretty doing a bank. It looks so pretty.
Now you've hit upon it. It's gorgeous. I love these long sweeping turns. It's just beautiful.
As a side note, I did enjoy you in the Mirror Universe episodes, because that's when the original series came back, and you played that different but the same. Beautiful.
Completely different kind of guy in a different. It's a kind of a weird story, but I read that. I had never seen the original that it was taken from, so I read the script and I didn't quite get it.
Yeah.
And
was there no lead up? Like, guys, this week is a weird one.
Nothing. They just dumped the script on me.
Oh, wow.
I showed up and I'm working, and my first scene was, I'm in some room and T'Pol comes in. She's got long hair. She's got a bare midriff. She's like a cat. She's feisty. She's like a cat. Like a vermal. What am I trying to say? A feral cat, a predator.
Yeah.
She grabs me, shoves me down in a chair, and whips me around, and this is Gary, the actor, not really understanding the script yet, not getting the wait a minute. Okay, we're alternate universe, and then but then Archer is not only in the alternate universe. he's outside. He's a conscience, and so I had to ask. There's a big crowd scene, and I'm asking Scott Bakula. Now wait a minute. Excuse me. I'm sorry, but are you doing the alternate universe Archer, or are you doing the out of body conscience Archer?
Yes.
There was a third presence there.
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out which one you're doing, and Bakula just goes, "Oh God, would somebody explain the script to Mr. Graham?" And he storms up and he makes a big deal, but he wasn't pissed. He was just doing a scene.
Yeah.
But
well, he was in character.
It was in character, and I'm going, "Oh jeez, oh no." But I saw it aired, all cut together, and it was perfect.
Yeah.
And I go, "Oh, that's what it is." So it's always fun to play your character in a different persona in an alternate universe. But I did get to pilot the Enterprise and get blown to shit. So
you did.
That's always good.
You rebelled. You got killed.
Yeah, it was great. Well, that was an exciting day. Okay, Gary, don't step over here because this will take your arm off. Yeah, and don't get too close to this because there's going to be a huge, heavy tonnage girder falling on you. An actor lives to die.
Yes. Great way to end on. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're so welcome.